Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. I'm your host, Dave Gasper. Lots to get to here on a Friday show. We're going to look ahead to the series coming up against the Kansas City Royals. Also, we're going to look down on the farm system. Luis Lara having a great start to the season so far. We'll get into that. But first, got a couple of news and tidbits about a couple of the Brewers players that fans have been looking at. Fans have been concerned about, perhaps, over the past couple of days here. And I'm going to start with Robert Gasser, who is one of the top Brewers pitching prospects that they have. Just missed the cut for the starting rotation to begin the season in the big leagues. So he goes down to AAA, opening day starter for AAA Nashville. Absolutely carves guys up. Strikes out 11, just phenomenal for his opener for the Nashville Sounds. And his next turn in the rotation would be, today. It would be sometime this weekend that Robert Gasser would be pitching again based on how the rotation would normally work. But Robert Gasser instead is not pitching. You get Garrett Stallings gets a start on Thursday night, and the probables that the Nashville Sounds have put out, Robert Gasser is not among them. So left many people wondering what's going on with Robert Gasser. Is he getting called up? Is he injured potentially? Because there's always going to be that concern, especially when you're talking about Brewers fans on social media. There's a lot of just mind going to the worst case scenario, which is understandable given everything that we have experienced in life. But according to the Brewers, according to Adam McCalvy, who put out a just kind of a calmer tweet out there, that they are just simply managing his workload early in the season. Likely going to be doing this with a couple of the other pitching prospects that they have, the guys that they view as major league options throughout the year. Just managing the workload, not an injury, not a call-up either, but just simply giving him a little bit of extra time between, and they're going to be managing his innings. Gasser, it is important to remember, he did have elbow surgery not too long ago, was able to make it back from that last year, so still managing that workload for him. He's not just going to be able to go out there and just go 200 innings this season. They're going to be managing that for him. So it makes sense, especially early on in the year. They know they are going to need as many healthy arms as possible when they get into September and October. Because remember last year, the rotation was feeling great. And then somehow, when the Brewers got to October, it's like you had one healthy starter, and the other guys were kind of like, I don't really know. I mean, you had Freddie Peralta, okay, cool, great. And Quinn Priester was dealing with something. You had Henderson dealing with something. You had Quintana dealing with something, and just all up and down. You had kind of struggles there for the rotation. So the Brewers are trying to make sure they have as many starting pitchers as healthy as possible that heading into September and October, because they know they're going to need them. So they're going to manage that workload early on because they can. They certainly have the depth of pitching talent to be able to do that in AAA Nashville. So they're going to be managing those innings as much as they can. Gasser's probably not going to be the only one they do that to. So we're going to see that quite a bit throughout the season, I'd imagine. But that's just kind of the first turn through here that we're seeing for Robert Gasser, at least, that they are managing that workload. So I support it. I think it's important to do that because, again, all of these guys are going to be so important down the stretch. When we get into June, July, August, who knows who's actually going to end up being in this rotation. I mean, they could cycle through a whole bunch of guys. There's a whole bunch of pitchers that are deserving of being in this rotation. It's just a matter of finding spots. There could be injuries that do pop up along the way, but either way, there could be poor performance as well. Want to move someone else up in place. If let's say Brandon Sproat continues to struggle, then we could see Gasser or someone else come up and take his spot in that rotation. Who knows, okay? But we're going to see things change throughout this rotation, throughout the year, in all likelihood. But you want to have as many healthy arms as possible, so they're going to manage that workload. So I think that's very smart by the Brewers. And then also, we're looking at another top Brewers prospect here, the one who signed a contract, allegedly, hasn't been made official yet, but Cooper Pratt is still out of the Nashville lineup, as he has been throughout the week. Just kind of looking at the lineup initially, it's like, Cooper Pratt's not in there. That's interesting. That's curious. Is he coming up? What's going on? But he has been held out the past couple of days in AAA Nashville, and that since that contract is not official, I think it's fair to assume that he is not going to play until that is made official. I'm not sure where he's going for his physical. I'm guessing he's got another physical, perhaps a more intensive physical exam that he's going to have to take before that contract does become official. I'm not sure whether that's going to be in Milwaukee, whether that's in Arizona that they have him going to, but either way, Cooper Pratt still not in the lineup, now with a big league club, and that contract's still not official. Still waiting on that, even though this was reported earlier in the week. Now we're at the end of the week, and it still hasn't yet been finalized. So I'm not really concerned that anything is falling through at all. But we also have seen a couple of other shortstop prospect extensions happening here in the past couple of days. The next day was Colt Emerson with the Seattle Mariners, signs for a massive amount of money, signs for $90+ million. And then on Thursday, the Pittsburgh Pirates announced that Connor Griffin is getting called up to the Major League roster, and he is going to be signing a 9-year, $140 million contract, which just blows away the records here for a player without any MLB service time at the time of his debut. But if the Pirates were smart, which historically they haven't been, but if the Pirates were smart, they're going to hold off on making that extension until after he makes his debut, because then Connor Griffin will be eligible for prospect promotion incentive draft picks. So if he wins Rookie of the Year, wins MVP, anything like that, they can get draft picks as compensation for that. So that's what the Pirates would do if they were smart. They have not been smart in the past. Perhaps they are being smart now. We shall see. But again, I'll believe it when I see it because it's the Pittsburgh Pirates. But Cooper Pratt, we're still not seeing him quite yet. We're not seeing that deal get finalized. Once it does, I imagine we'll see Cooper Pratt back in the lineup there in AAA Nashville. I would love to see this get announced and just be done with, just to get all the details on it, and then we can actually talk to the Brewers, talk to Matt Arnold, talk to Pat Murphy about this kid and about the plans for him, and get some actual details and get some actual answers on this. But instead, we are still waiting. We're still waiting here on Cooper Pratt, but hopefully it should be fairly soon here. All right, now, just speaking about who's actually playing down there in AAA Nashville, I want to talk about Luis Lara, because Lara is absolutely raking to start the season down there in Nashville. Through the first handful of games, he's already got a pair of home runs, and just looking at his numbers, I mean, he has a career high of 4 home runs in a season. He has hit just 12 now in his entire minor league career, which dates back to 2022. Okay, so he's in his 5th season in the minor leagues. He has 12 total home runs, 2 of them so far this season in just 5 games. He has been electric. He's hitting .400 to start the year. OPS over 1,200, just lighting it up. And Luis Lara, center fielder, Gold Glover in the outfield, 21 years old. Okay, so he's doing this at the highest level of the minor leagues at 21 years old. He's always been young for the level that he's been at. The Brewers have advanced him fairly quickly throughout the minor leagues. He spent all of 2024 in high A as a 19-year-old and put up, a 245 average, 659 OPS. That's where he had the 4 homers, 19 doubles, stole 45 bases. He stole 44 bases last year with 32 doubles. So there's a little bit of extra base pop coming in there. There's not going to be a ton. It's certainly going to be more of a doubles power than home run power for Luis Lara. He's never really going to be a massive home run threat, home run hitter. He's 5'7", $169, dripping wet. So I'm not expecting Luis Lara to be a power guy. But the fact that we're seeing a little bit more power show up early on in the season, I mean, he has matched last season's home run total in just 5 games. He played 136 games last year in AA Biloxi, had 2 homers. 5 games in AAA Nashville, 2 homers so far this season. And coming through with big hit after big hit. So Luis Lara is going to be a name to watch. I'm not sure how quickly the Brewers are going to want to move him to the major league level. Granted, they already do have quite a few outfielders. You got Luis Matos, that they just brought in. But you got Brandon Lockridge, who's earned a spot and playing well. You got Garrett Mitchell, who's been playing pretty well so far. You got Sal Frelick. You got Jackson Churio when he's healthy. You got Christian Yelich out there. So I'm not sure where exactly the playing time would come from at the major league level. But still, just a handful of games into his AAA career. he is lighting it up. So perhaps we could see him way later in the season, maybe when rosters expand, who knows. But either way, Luis Lara is making a very strong impression so far, and I think he very well could be the future in this outfield. I mean, if Garrett Mitchell struggles this year, if Garrett Mitchell can't lock down a starting spot and prove that he can play basically every single day and make those improvements offensively, Luis Lara could be your center fielder next season. You could have Churio in left, Frelick in right, Luis Lara in center. That could be your core going forward. If Mitchell can't establish himself, Luis Lara is coming up. I mean, he is pushing his way to the majors at some point. I don't think Lockridge is going to be your long-term answer out there in center. I don't think Blake Perkins is going to be your long-term answer out there in center. Luis Lara could be. So, and if he continues to hit like this, that's someone who absolutely is going to force his way into the conversation for the big league roster. So keep an eye on Luis Lara as things go on down there in AAA Nashville. All right, now back to the big league squad series starting against Kansas City here, the first road trip of the season for the Brewers. And you got a 3-game series here against the Royals. So tonight, you got Chad Patrick on the bump for the Brewers. Luinder Avila is going to be getting the start for Kansas City. He's a right-hander, making his first start of the year here, making his first outing. So Luinder Avila gets going on Friday here. Saturday, you got Brandon Sproat on the mound. Sproat looking to bounce back after he had a really tough first outing. The Brewers did end up winning the game against the White Sox there, but still, Brandon Sproat didn't pitch all that well in his first outing. He did have Jefferson Carroll behind the plate instead of William Contreras. Perhaps this time with Contreras behind the plate, things could go a bit differently for him, but Brandon Sproat will be going against Seth Lugo for the Kansas City Royals, and Lugo, one of their top starters that they have. And then on Sunday, we've got a battle of the lefties. Kyle Harrison on the bump for the Crew. Chris Bubic is going to be on the mound for the Royals. So we're going to see probably that lefty Sunday lineup for the Brewers against Kansas City there, where you're probably going to have Gary Sanchez playing at first base, and you're going to have your Brandon Lockridge or Blake Perkins potentially out there in the outfield, and seeing some of those lefties sit down for the Brewers. Potentially Jake Bauers sitting, although the way that he's been playing, maybe just leave him out there. I don't know, but still, that matchup against Bubic on Sunday just already screams classic Sunday lineup to me. Just with the lefty being on the mound for Kansas City. So that's what the Brewers have scheduled. I mean, the Royals, they are 3-3 to start the season. So they're 500. They're not off to clearly as hot a start as the Brewers have been. But still, they got a couple of big names in this rotation, Lugo and Bubic, that could present some problems for the Brewers. But the Brewers' offense has been cooking. They've been humming. So perhaps they can just continue that in this series here as they get their first one on the road as things get going here throughout the regular season. So hopefully we'll get some news on Cooper Pratt this weekend. Hopefully that'll get finalized. And hopefully the Brewers can continue their winning ways, because they're 5-1 to start the year. You've got to win series, and hopefully the Brewers can do that here against a Kansas City Royals team that is certainly on the up and coming. They got Bobby Witt Jr., an absolute superstar over there at shortstop. He is going to be a force to be reckoned with for that Brewers pitching staff. So it's going to be fun. I'm very excited for the series this weekend, and we'll be breaking it all down on Monday when we get back. So be sure to subscribe to Brewers Daily. Get notified every single time a new episode drops. Follow me on Twitter at dgasper24. And appreciate you watching. Appreciate you enjoying the show here. And we'll see you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.